Thank you. Thank you, Karen. These words are from anthropologist Ian Tattersall. We humans are very peculiar primates. We walk upright, precariously balancing our heavy bodies on two short feet. Our heads are oddly swollen, with tiny faces and small jaws tucked below the front of our balloon-like brain cases. Perhaps most remarkably, we process information about the world around us in an entirely unprecedented way. As far as anyone can tell, we are the only organisms that mentally deconstruct our surroundings and our internal experiences into a vocabulary of abstract symbols that we juggle in our minds to produce new versions of reality. We can envision what might be as well as describe what is. Humans evolved with brains and sensory organs matched to the scale of the world around us. Imagination and an ability to make tools started us on a journey that go far beyond that limited perspective, a journey that continues to this day.
I'm Tom Balliol. My pronouns are he, him. Come, journey with me. We are a species that tells stories. And because we're also a species with an ego, our stories placed ourselves at the center of all things. Here is a view of the cosmos that held sway through most of human history and was embraced by most religions. We are at the center because the gods created it all for us. In the 3rd century BC, Eratosthenes, a Greek librarian in Alexandria, Egypt, determined the Earth's circumference to be between 40,000 and 46,000 kilometers by comparing the sun's relative position at 2 different locations on the Earth's surface. Thus, the ancient world knew that the Earth was round and definitely finite. We now had a very good idea of size, but the idea of our planet's central position in the universe was never challenged. A perspective shift happened as a side effect of the Crusades to the Holy Lands. Trade increased with Eastern lands and brought knowledge of other people, other ways of living, and other ways of believing. Europeans learned about great, prosperous nations that didn't subscribe to Christian doctrine, and of course, this was threatening to the church. The church wanted trade to go through believers rather than through non-Christian middlemen. This became the stimulus to seek an ocean route to the east, which drove innovation in navigation and the development of new instruments that we could also use to extend our senses. In the 16th century, the astronomical observations and calculations of Brahe, Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler demonstrated that the Earth, rather than being at the center of the universe, was just one of several planets orbiting the sun. This did not go down well with the church, which declared these views to be heretical and even executed some proponents. Only in 1992 did the Catholic Church finally apologize for the wrong done to Galileo. Even early proponents of science held that nature should be studied and understood as a unique creation of God. Isaac Newton, for example, noted that mathematics was a way to understand the mind of God. But then, in the mid-18th century, the new science of geology quickly challenged the biblical views of creation. The stories told by rocks pointed to a great age for the Earth and enormous upheavals across immeasurable time. This is a 1787 etching of what is known as James Hutton's unconformity, clearly showing the contact between very different rock formations. In 1799, German naturalist Alexander von Humboldt conceived of the then radical notion that all aspects of nature are interconnected. Sound familiar? Humboldt's ideas strongly influenced such contemporaries as James Madison, Charles Darwin, Henry David Thoreau, and John Muir. By the turn of the 20th century, however, Humboldt's ideas began to lose favor in the world of science, as it separated itself into several different areas of study. Geologists looked only at rocks, botanists studied only plants, zoologists only animals, and so on. Excuse me. It wasn't until the 1970s that Humboldt's ideas rose again with the acceptance of the Gaia hypothesis, which holds that living organisms interact with their inorganic surroundings to form a complex system that helps to maintain the conditions for life on our planet. Charles Darwin changed our perception of ourselves as being specially created by God, separate from other living things. The evolution of complex life from earlier, simpler forms was inevitable given mutations, natural selection, and enough time. His seminal work on the origin of species by natural selection can be found in our banned book library out in the gallery. The invention and refinement of the microscope helped in the discovery of disease germs, ideas that gave rise to concepts of public health, water and sewage treatment, vaccines, and drugs. And these are some of the greatest achievements of human civilization. Our understanding of nature and our place in it grew further with the development of larger and larger telescopes. Our view has expanded from the few thousand stars visible to the naked eye to many millions, showing that our sun is just one of multitudes of suns in our cosmic neighborhood. Another important breakthrough came in 1923. Prior to that, the known universe consisted of just the Milky Way, and there was no way to tell the distance to most of the stars and nebulae that could be seen. But then astronomer Edwin Hubble took a photo of a far-off nebula. Hubble recognized a variable star of the kind described by Henrietta Leavitt. Using this star, Hubble calculated that the nebula was actually a distant galaxy itself, as large as the Milky Way. Note the marking VAR exclamation point on the photo. One abbreviation, and our understanding of the universe was changed forever. Hubble went on to show that the universe is expanding. And if it was expanding, then at some point in time it had a beginning. We now refer to that beginning as the Big Bang. That term was actually coined by astronomer Fred Hoyle as a satirical reference to an event that he believed never happened. The development of the atom bomb led to the desire to understand the inner workings of the atom and the processes of nuclear fission and fusion. And I can recommend to everybody the movie Oppenheimer, give you a clearer insight into some of that. A new breed of scientists, nuclear physicists, joined with astronomers to figure out how stars are able to produce so much energy over such long time periods. They learned that stars go through a life cycle, fusing hydrogen atoms into helium atoms, which then themselves fuse into nitrogen and so on, eventually producing elements such as carbon, oxygen, silicon, nickel, and iron. Exploding stars, supernovas, scatter these elements into space to be incorporated into the next generation of stars, and forming the building blocks of planets and the building blocks of ourselves. As astronomer Carl Sagan noted, we are all star stuff. Studies of supernovas also demonstrate that the expansion of the universe is accelerating. But to what end? Definitive proof of the Big Bang was provided inadvertently in 1964 by two Bell Laboratories scientists who were just trying to discover the source of static picked up by a sensitive microwave antenna. The noise appeared to be the same regardless of where in the sky the antenna was pointed. That noise turned out to be the echo of the Big Bang, attenuated by the expansion of the universe over billions of years. We now know this noise as the cosmic microwave background. Those of you who, like me, grew up in the pre-cable age of television will recall that when the TV set was not tuned to a broadcast channel, you got snow on the screen and a static hiss. Part of that hiss is the same echo of the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe. Isn't it amazing that some of us have heard this for ourselves? Very subtle variations in the cosmic microwave background, mapped across the sky by astronomers and cosmologists, have now added to our understanding of how the universe has evolved over 13.7 billion years. The space program of the 1950s and 60s sent both humans and cameras into space, and again reset our perspective of our home. Earthrise over the moon, taken by astronomers of Apollo 8, may be the most significant photo ever taken. For the first time, people the world over could actually see that our planet is only a small blue water world floating in the darkness of space. A photo taken by the Voyager 1 space probe on February 14, 1990, made this new perception of our place in the universe even clearer. Following a lobbying effort by Carl Sagan, NASA directed the probe to turn around and turn its cameras earthward from a distance of about 6 billion kilometers. That photo captured a new view of Earth, a pale blue dot hanging in a sunbeam, nearly lost in the vastness of space. For me, this is the most spiritual image ever. The Hubble Deep Field North. The Hubble Space Telescope was aimed at an apparently empty patch of sky, collecting exposures over 10 consecutive days. All of the patches of light that you see here are galaxies, each containing tens of billions of stars and stretching back in time to the infancy of the universe. Astronomers now calculate that the visible universe contains some 350 billion galaxies and trillions of stars. It's hard to square those numbers with the religious tenet that it's all designed for us. As new instruments have been deployed, observations have piled on observations, discoveries upon discoveries. We've visited all the planets in the solar system and many of their moons. The Kepler Space Telescope, pictured here, has revealed thousands of planets orbiting other suns, some of them possibly Earth-like. The new James Webb Space Telescope promises to reveal thousands more. Both NASA and the European Space Agency are planning missions to the water-rich moons of Jupiter and Saturn, because organic life, at least as we know it, requires water. Imagine the change in perspective if any of these investigations discover conclusive life out there in the cosmos. How will humanity's faith traditions respond? Modern astronomy has also revealed that the stuff that makes up everything we can see and touch, normal matter, is only about 4% of what's out there. The other 96% remains hidden to us, leading to the terms dark matter and dark energy. What a perspective shift that would be when and if we understand those mysteries. Now, moving from the cosmic to the minute, the new discipline of quantum physics has shifted our perspective once again by showing that reality is truly weird, almost beyond our comprehension. Quantum entanglement, which is a real phenomenon, holds that measurement of a subatomic particle here on Earth can affect the properties of an entangled particle billions of light years away instantly. That's truly mind-boggling. But as astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And while we are learning much about the universe that surrounds us, we are also learning much about ourselves and our own bodies. Modern understandings of genetics has allowed us to determine guilt or innocence in court, to show that our ancient ancestors interbred with other human species, and even to modify the biological characteristics of living things. Creating life, once the sole jurisdiction of the gods, has now been given to us mortals. Comparative studies of DNA found in organisms simple and complex show that the code of life on this planet is universal. We really are related to bananas. The field of AI, artificial intelligence, is so new, I'm not even going to go there right now, other than to point out that this is just another challenge to our perception of reality. I have no doubt that other changes and challenges will continue to arise as we go through the years. Now, where does this all leave us? Yes, we are tiny. We live on a minuscule rock covered with a veneer of water and air, orbiting a dwarf yellow star in a backwater part of an ordinary galaxy. Does that mean we are insignificant specks of matter created by chance in an indifferent cosmos? Or because each of us is unique? Out of hundreds of billions of galaxies and trillions of planets, you are the only you. Does that mean each of us is capable of greater understanding and capable of using that understanding for the betterment of humanity and all the organisms that share this lonely little planet with us? Question: learn, grow, and make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you. For the month of July, we are sharing our offering plate with Sedona Grace. The Sedona Grace Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit charity founded in 2011 to provide dog and cat food to Central Ohio food pantries, so families experiencing hard times do not have to give up their pets because they cannot afford to feed them. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity.
Good morning. I am Reverend Kathleen Fowler, and I am privileged to serve as your Minister of Pastoral Care. My pronouns are she and her. This morning I offer to you for your consideration a poem by Joe Miller titled, "If the Earth Were Only a Few Feet in Diameter." As it is true of many great children's books, this one is a great source of learning for all of us. And I just bought this book last night. This is a book that the author gives us a poem shaped like Earth's globe, inviting us to view our planet from a startling perspective, as if it were only a few feet in diameter, hanging just above the surface of a grassy field. If the Earth were only a few feet in diameter, floating a few feet above a field somewhere, people would come from everywhere to marvel at it. People would walk around it, marveling at its big pools of water, its little pools, and the water flowing between. People would marvel at the bumps on it and the holes in it. They would marvel at the very thin layer of gas surrounding it and the water suspended in the gas. The people would marvel at all the creatures walking around the surface of the ball and at the creatures in the water. People would declare it as sacred because it was the only one, and they would protect it so that it would not be hurt. The ball would be the greatest wonder known. And people would come back to pray to it, to be healed, to gain knowledge, to know beauty, and to wonder how it could be. People would love it and defend it with their lives because they would somehow know that their lives could be nothing without it, if the Earth were only a few feet in diameter. This morning, we hold up 2 San Diego residents cleared out the Pride Month display at their library and said such books should not be available to children. Since then, roughly 180 people have given more than $15,000 to the library system, which, after a city match, will provide over $30,000 towards more LGBTQ-themed material. Each voice does count. We hold up an officer with the Circleville Police Department was fired from his job after deploying a canine police dog on an unarmed black man, Jadarius, for a missing mud flap on the truck he was driving. Many across the country are expressing outrage after the police body camera footage showed Jadarius being mauled by this dog. May we see the reality of racism and work to uproot it in our society, our world, and in ourselves. And I invite, there she is, our pastoral listener, Pat Snyder, to share this week's caring cards that were submitted during the service. And after I read those that came in through the computer this and last week. And I'm including 2 that were also inadvertently left off from previous weeks. So we have 4 caring cards this morning and 3 announcements. Congratulations to Reverend Kelly and J.M., who will celebrate their wedding anniversary on Tuesday, August 1st. Congratulations. We lift up our hearts to the UU congregation in Plano, Texas, which was recently firebombed, and luckily there were no injuries reported. Dee Sanders, a former First UU choir director, is hospitalized with necrotizing fasciitis, often referred to as flesh-eating bacteria. It has caused significant damage to her left leg, which doctors are now treating. Her recovery is steady but very slow, and she will remain in the hospital for a few more days, minimally. Congratulations to Steve A., retired professor, well-known Columbus poet, and one of the founders and current organizers of the Poetry Forum, a weekly open mic venue. Steve has decided to retire after 39 years. It was the second longest running weekly poetry series in the country. That's incredible, and thank you, Steve. And these announcements from Tom B. It is with joy I note that First UU is presenting the art of incarcerated person Jim F. and informing us of the work of the Ohio Justice and Policy Center. Tom says, pay it forward. Congratulations to our 4-H club members on their showing this year at the Franklin County Fair. To Adrian T. for achieving State Fair Alternative, and to Hazel T., Joby T., Violet D., Teddy D., Adam M., Caroline M., Noah M., Granio S., and No M. for State Fair selection for their projects. Good luck to this week at the State Fair. And Kristen H. expresses gratitude that following her friend Timothy D.'s hospitalization for a chest infection, he is improving and has returned to work. We wish him continued healing. And we encourage everyone here to go to the caring table in Beach Hall after the service to sign caring cards. Whether or not you know the person, this longtime tradition of signing cards in person is an important outreach to members and friends. And even if there are no cards to sign, you can stop by and say hello to our volunteers. And now, Pat.
I have two joys. Raina B.J. is extremely proud to share that Carson T. has received a new job offer. And Kristen H. is sharing that Kelly and Chris H. welcomed their first child, Micah Charles.
And all of those yet unspoken gently in our hearts. As I ring our temple bell, I invite you into a moment of shared silence to reflect, imagine, pray, or to simply breathe. I will ring this bell a second time to continue our service. As our service draws to a close, Karen will play What We Call the Beginning by Les Clean, and this will be sung by Barb Fiorini.
What we call the beginning is often the end. the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone, and that is where we start.
We close with another statement from Carl Sagan in his Gifford Lectures presented in Glasgow in 1985. When you look at Earth from space, it is striking. There are no national boundaries visible. They've been put there, like the equator and the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, by humans. The planet is real, the life on it is real, and the political separations that have placed the planet in danger are of human manufacture. They have not been handed down from Mount Sinai. All the beings on this little world are mutually dependent. It's like living in a lifeboat. We breathe the air that the Russians have breathed, and the Zambians and Tasmanians and people all over the planet. Whatever the causes that divide us, it is clear that the earth will be here 1,000 or 1,000,000 years from now. The question is, the key question, the central question, in a certain sense, the only question: will we? If you are online, I invite you to bring your chalice closer to extinguish our flame together. If you are here in person, after the postlude, you are welcome to go to Beach Hall for coffee and conversation. I invite you to join me in speaking our vision statement as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Our flame is extinguished, but the light lives on in our hearts and lives. Please remain seated as Karen plays our postlude. As you go out into the world, remember to greet those you meet and take time to think about your relationship to the world around you.